Borbets back down in Texas here at the new shop, which even though it is an overcast day with a little bit of sprinkle coming from the sky, I don't care because I actually have finally a nice place of my own to work inside. So we're just going to go inside here. Before we do that, here's one of my gifts I got. It's my shop warming gift from a very close friend of mine down here in Texas at Cotter Factory, so thank you so much for that. And there's actually a second piece that he got done as well, which is this sign right here. And yeah, this is full steel. It was all cut out and it weighs a small ton, so I'm gonna have to figure out how I want to mount that. So behind me I have 3 of my cars in one place, so it's a really good start, and excited that I have the 2 Dutch cars down here in Texas, something unique. You definitely don't see Dutch cars very often, let alone down south in Texas, but I wanted them to be down here instead of having them stored up north. I didn't have climate control up there, so instead of them sitting out in freezing temperatures, even though they were inside, figure this is a better fit. So got the 1991 Wild Strawberry Hatch and the 1993 Tip Dutch Coupe, and then in the back the 1987 Stalker Vert. So of course I don't want to waste any time. I want to do something, and you know, I don't have really any tools in here, as you can see. You know, I stuffed this banner up there. I got ideas in terms of how I want to do the layout and set things up. Probably get some 4 posts over here so I can take advantage of all the storage space, and then hopefully get a 2-post lift somewhere around here where the Stalker Vert is. This used to be a gym, that's why there's mirrors everywhere, and some of you guys have commented saying, oh, it looks like a studio, not like a garage. So I have to change the layout, get it more functional. There's actually a pull-up bar here from the gym, so we'll get that taken down and utilize the space a bit better. So today, I'm really excited because I've wanted to do this for a very long time. As much as I love the look of the 1993 Tip Dutch Coupe, love the ROH wheels, it's something different. Those wheels are probably the most modern look of the car, aside from the updated 5.0 emblems on the fenders, and maybe the blue headlights. That's something a little bit different. But I really want to be nostalgic with this car. If you guys watch the video, how I explained, you know, my first coupe was a silver coupe back in high school, and going back to those nostalgic type memories, I want to put those Borbets that are on the Stalker Vert onto the coupe, and then I'm going to bolt these ROH 3-piece Modena wheels onto the Stalker Vert. So it should be pretty straightforward. Both sets of wheels are 5-bolt. For a lot of you, you're always asking more so about these 18-inch Borbets, because these are a 5-bolt and they are actually a Mercedes fitment wheel, so it's a 5x1 12-bolt pattern. I'm going to get into that a little bit later about how I managed to get these wheels to fit on this car versus the 17-inch Borbet Type A's that are on the Wild Strawberry car. These are the Mustang 4-lug bolt pattern by default, so those just bolt on. There's no changes there. So those are a 4-bolt wheel. They are 17 by 8.5 all the way around. It's a square setup, and I'm running 2 45/40 17-inch tires on this car, so it looks pretty good. And the silver coupe is on the 3-piece ROH Modena wheels, and they are an 18.8 in the front, and they are an 18.9 in the rear, I believe. That could be an 8.5 and a 9.5. It's been quite some time now. I'm gonna have to double check it. I'll put it down in the bottom here once I correct myself. And in the front, I'm actually running a very small 225 40/18, and in the rear is a 255 35/18. So fairly smaller tires, not too aggressive, but with the air ride, I did roll the lips with a fender roller on this car, but I didn't want to have to do any big hammer modifications or anything like that to get fitment. So this is where the bit of a challenge comes in. The 18-inch Borbet Type A's on the Stalker Vert. These are 18.8.5 in the front, 18.10 in the rear, with a 245 35 18 and a 285 30 18 in the rear. Kind of a more challenging tire to get in the rear. Those are Federal tires, but managed to find them. And this car being so low and with the wheel size and everything else, that was a tire that managed to get to fit. Now, these quarters have much more than just a fender roller that's happened to them. They have had the big hammer treatment. I actually had to do it on the passenger side the other day when I got back, because even though after the lowering that I did the last time we were here with the Racelands, I still had a little bit of rubs. So I had to get that sorted out. Everything is good now, there's no rubs. So the problem now is going to be on the silver car. Chances are these tires are going to rub in the rear, but the silver car is on air ride. So, you know, I should be okay when I lower it down on the air. You know, I'm not going to want to drive like that anyways, but we're going to see. I want to see how they look on this car, and I think it's just going to look super, super cool. Some of you guys might agree, some of you guys might not, but that's all in the fun of it, and we can always swap the wheels back if we have to afterwards. So one of the main things that we need to do to get those Borbets on here is I actually have longer wheel studs in the rear. So my concern is that these might be too long, A, for the center cap of the Borbet wheel, B, these are open-faced lug nuts, and the ones that I'm using for the Borbets are closed. So I do have a angle grinder and a cutoff wheel if we need to shorten those down. So once I take the wheels off, do some measurements, we'll be able to see exactly what needs to happen there. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the driver's sides, and if everything works out, move over to the passenger side. The nice thing about the silver car, it is on air, so I can just air it up, get the jack underneath the stock revert. I'm going to have to drive it up on some 2x4s, and that should give me enough clearance to get the jack underneath it and get the car up. So I'm going to put the camera down now. You're going to see me loosening off all the lug nuts, pull the center caps off, loosen those lug nuts off, and get the cars up, get it jacked up, get the wheels off, and hopefully we can do a super cool wheel swap. It actually didn't take that much effort for me to loosen all these lug nuts off. That's because I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't over tighten your lug nuts, especially with nice wheels. You don't want to crack, you don't want to get the nuts, you know, seized on there, stripping things off. So a good bar, take your time, and you don't want to scratch your wheels, and you don't want to have to use too much pressure at the end of the day. All right, guys, so I've gone ahead. The cars are raised up enough to get the jack underneath. I've removed the center caps off here. I've loosened off all of the lug nuts so that we can proceed to raise the car up with the jacks and get the wheels off. Before we do that, I want to explain the wheel fitment on the black car. So if you guys can look really closely here and look at the circles of where the lug nuts fit into the wheels, and look at the lug nuts themselves, you're actually going to notice that they are not center and true to the wheel if you're looking at the outer part of the nuts. And that is because this bolt pattern is a 5x112, instead of a 5x114.3. So what I had to do was get these special types of lug nuts. And I'm going to show you what they look like when I take them off. But what they're called is a PCD variation nut. And it actually allows the threaded portion of the nut to float up to 3 millimeters, I believe, from left to right on the seat of where the seat actually sits inside the wheel. And what that allows the nut to do is to float off to the side, and it allows the threaded portion to still tighten down, get your wheel on tight, but to make up for that 2 millimeters worth of difference on the wheel itself. So that is how these wheels actually fit on this car. The other thing that I had to do was I actually had to get the center hub portion bored out here to fit the SN95 spindle. I believe this is about 70 millimeters in diameter. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is. And these wheels were about 64 millimeters, so I got a local machine shop to make this hole bigger. But again, you can see the slight little variance in terms of the placement of the nut, in terms of the overall center placement of the bore hole, or the lug hole, sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead, jack this car up, get these wheels off. I'm gonna jack this car up, get those wheels off. We'll do a little swap and we'll see what happens.
That old rail shit. That old rail.
Wheels are off the black car, and here's one of the PCD variation nuts. You can actually see here that 2 to 3 millimeter movement up, down, left, right that allows the Borbets to be able to be bolted onto this car. Rear wheel is off the silver car now. You can see that the rear tire is quite a bit narrower than the 285 that came off the stock Vert. As you can see, the wheel studs are quite long here. So come over here, grab one of the wobble nuts. You can see, oh, I am running a spacer in the back here too. So that makes things even more interesting. So if I was to try and put this wobble nut on, it is going to bottom out. So it'll only go to about there, which means I won't be able to tighten my wheel down. So I'm gonna have to cut some material off these guys. Let's see what happens. So I've just temporarily put this rear wheel on. I use the original nuts before I commit to cutting the wheel studs down, just to see that everything is going to fit and clear before I invest the time to cutting into things. So most important, we got exhaust clearance here. We have inside clearance behind the wheel in the rear inner fender wall here. And that should continue true as we lower the car. So just going to lower that down right now. Lowered that. Let's hit the air. Definitely looks different. there's more involved in terms of what I originally thought to swap the wheels over. You know, they're both 5-lug. You know, they both have the right hardware that's needed to put the wheels and tires on the opposing cars, but there are some other differences to consider. So we talked about tire sizes originally when we first started today, and that rear 285 that fits on the stocker vert because of the big hammer method that I used, well, the tire does slightly sit on the rear quarter lip here, and I just don't like the body of the car having to rest on the tire. So ultimately, we would need probably a 265 in the rear here to get these to work. There's no spacers on the back. This is the true offset of the wheel, which is a really nice offset. Just a 285 is too big. So that's the first bit. We talked about the wheel studs. I didn't cut them down, but the wheel studs would need to get cut down to allow those PCD variation nuts to be able to thread on all the way and get the wheel torqued down and safe. The front, no problem. The front's bolt on, no spacer issues, no stud issues, no nothing, no rubbing issues. You know, it's a tight fit up in here with the car aired all the way down, but that's fine because, well, the car is aired all the way down. So a little bit of a dilemma in the back. Front, everything is okay. Moving on to the stocker vert. This is where I wasn't even aware that there was going to be issues. I thought these wheels would just be kind of bolt on and go and not to have anything to worry about. But the front, I can't actually get my center cap on because the dust cap is here. And so I'd have to remove the dust cap, which is not really a big deal. It's removed on the silver car. And I believe grind down a little bit of the top of the nut. And then that would allow us to get our center cap on here. And the rears, more importantly, I forgot that I was running a spacer on the silver car. So when I put the spacer in here and try and put the nuts on, there are not enough threads to bolt this wheel down tight enough to make it safe for the road. I think I maybe got 2.5 turns, if that. So that's just kind of a no-go. And to be honest with you, I don't want to not run the spacer. I could remove the spacer and get the right amount of threads that I need to bolt the wheel on, but you know, I want the wheel to sit nice and sit right. So the car is not, you know, all the way down. I don't have the springs seated in there properly, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what the Modenas will look like on the stocker vert, and give you an idea what the Borbets look like on the Dutch Coupe. So I'm thinking the smartest thing to do here, if this is the way that I decide to go, and I am leaning towards this. I personally think these Borbets look really nice on this car, and I think the Modenas look really great on the black car. But they're not directly interchangeable like we thought. So the biggest thing that would have to happen is I'm thinking I'd probably just swap the tires over. They're both around an 8.5 inch wheel on the front. The rears are both 10s, around 10 and 9.5, I believe. So tire sizes would probably all be fine. Have to swap the tires over, have to cut the studs down in the rear here, take the dust cap off the front, and nip the end of the nut, or the bolt, sorry. And the rear, we'd need longer studs. So that's the result, guys. I'm actually gonna end up jacking these cars back up. I'm going to put them back to the way they were, so that way the cars are drivable. And I'm gonna wait for your comments and your feedback to tell me, should I go through the trouble of putting the Borbets on the Coupe and the Modenas on the stocker vert? So let me know what you guys think I should do. Put it down in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. There's going to be a lot more stuff happening in this garage. I'm extremely excited about it. You know, I even got a couple boxes here from LMR. LMR is even just down the road, actually, probably maybe about an hour from me. So extremely convenient for Foxbody builds and everything else. But again, there you have it, guys.